Recording in progress. Career in pen test, and at that time I found out there is a header box, try-hit-me, polygon, which could give you an insight of how pen tests work. So I involved in that area for quite a long time until now, and from all that experience, I got the prizes for OSCP certifications, and thanks to that, I managed to get an internship that related to cybersecurity and work right now as a graduate cybersecurity consultant. And that's a little bit of my journey. Yeah. So what I could say is that once we have patience towards something, right, you would have motivation in there. So even though that there might some have a different background, maybe not cybersecurity, but they want to change their life, they want to change some things. So they join with CTF first and they found the patient, and might be they will try to go in that area. So there's a lot of up and down in our journey, but I think it's very interesting as that is life. So before we jump into introduction of CTF, I just want to give some idea on what I see in CTF, right? So usually we see this in our WhatsApp or social media, but there is one sentence that triggered, I don't know if it triggered anyone, but for me, it's very, it challenge yourself, like only 1 in 1,000 could solve this problem. So in CTF, when we receive a challenge, you excited and you curious on how you can solve it. And what I would say is that different people might have different solution, might have different method. And for example, the first person might solve it like this, and the second person might solve it like this. So, but at the end, you will get the same result, which is 96. So in CTF, you will get a challenge, you will solve it, and you get the thing that you want, which is the flag. And then you submit the flag. So even though that two different people have different method, at the end you get the same flag, and that's where you want to submit it and get the point. So what is CTF? CTF is a gamification of cybersecurity training where you learn cybersecurity skills, but in a gamified versions. So it's not like you read a book and you get the knowledge, but this one, you need to do research, you need to hands-on. So a lot of things that you might do to solve the challenge. And CTF is not mainly for students, so it could be anyone else. It could be cybersecurity professionals. As long as you enjoy it and you want to learn in cybersecurity area, then it will be fine. And at the end, we want to like sharpening our tools, our skills, our methodology, to prepare ourselves in a cybersecurity career or to improve your knowledge. And in CTF, you could compete in as a solo or a team, but in a team usually 3 people in one team, and I think it's very nice as you have a team because there are a lot of category in CTF, and it's, I would say, impossible for us to be good at everything. So you might to split it like 3 category per people in your team. So that would be really awesome. All right. And then get your hands dirty in a safe environment, which means that that platform, that challenge is for you to test your skills, your methods, your tools. So you don't have to worry about you're doing bad thing or anything. But they have a constraint so that you will not abuse their platform or maybe DDoS their platform, all right? But at the end, it is fun and enjoyable. And I think CTF is really fun as you meet a lot of people, a lot of friends, and you learn a lot from them. So in CTF, there are commonly 2 types of CTF. So the first one is Geoparty, where you have different category or different challenges. and to win it, you need to solve as much as you could. So the highest scoring team or individuals will be the winner. But difference with attack and defense CTF, you might compete with two or more teams. And how you get scoring is that you need to attack and defense at the same time. And if you manage to defend your own services the longer, then you get a point. And if you manage to get a flag from other teams, then you get the points. And at the end, whoever get the highest scoring team, that will be the winner. So that is two commonly CTF that we could found. And then this is one of the example of scoreboard in Geoparty style, which I think this one is War Games last year, if I'm not mistaken. And we could see the other teams score. We could see the challenge name, what is the scoring for each challenges. And it's not that, I would say it's a bit pressure, but it's healthy pressure where you could see, oh, the other team solved this, right? So how about we try this? So it just gives you some hint for what next question that you would like to do for the next one. And you can see who got the first submission, second, and third. So it all depends on the organizer, how they want to make their own scoreboard. But usually it's a CTFD platform. So the next one is example of attack and defense scoreboard, where it's a little bit different compared to the Geoparty one. You can see there is only 6 columns, with 6 columns is referring to the services. And we could see how many flag that we got from other teams and how many flag that other teams get from us. So negative is what they got from us, quite a lot, right? And this one is HITB attack and defense. So you could try to look forward in their news. Might be they have the next coming attack and defense in the future. So we learned about the type of CTF, what it have, and right now we're going to look at what kind of category in the Geoparty CTF. So there are a lot, but I saw this. First one is forensic, and the second one is cryptography. The next one is web exploitation, reverse engineering. And then we have binary exploitation, OSINT, misprogramming, and all of this you could see in, you might not see everything in one CTF. They might choose like few kind of category just to ensure that everyone could have the time to solve all of the challenges, as most of the CTF in local usually is to not 24 hours kind of CTF, but in international they might do like 2 or 3 days kind of CTF, and at that time you could solve a lot of things. So this is just one example of forensic challenge, so that anyone who's beginner could have some idea on how we could solve the challenge. So this challenge you can get in CTF Learn. It's a forensic challenge where you could see the title name, the points, the difficulty, and the descriptions. And from here, you could get the file in the mega link. And what we need to do is, this challenge is related to packet analysis. So you might need to use different tools like Wireshark or T-Shark. Even the name itself gives you a hint what kind of challenge it is. You see that it's capitalized the characters C, A, and P. So it might give you a pcat file. So this is one of the examples that you can see when you open Wireshark and open the pcat files. You can see something like this, right? And for anyone who is really never encountered this application, they might shock, like, where to read. There's a lot of numbers and sentence strings. So yeah, but experience matter, you will find it easy to use. So what should do when we find that kind of challenge, right? So we need to find an interesting packet. You need to identify it. So this one is to test your analyze skills. So you need to understand what is the connection of each packet, what it's doing, what it's trying to get or requested, right? There's a lot of things that you could filter using this Wireshark. So you need to work with a methodology. And this methodology is not something that you could get in one day kind of training, but it's something that you do daily. Like when you eat daily, right? So it's something that you need to practice and keep practicing. And that's where you will get your own methodology instead of following others. So when we receive that packet and we try to analyze each packet, we found out there is a very weird strings in the message parameter. So at this time, some people might know that this might be base 64 because there is an equal at the end. But some people who doesn't know, they might just search on this, what is this? So at the end, like I said before, experience matter. So when you read a lot of write-up, when you do a lot of questions, you know how to decode this sentence. And you could use a Linux command, or you could use CyberChef, for example, or any kind of tools that could help you on decode this base 64. And from here, we could see that it's very simple and it's very educational, because from this one challenge, you learn on how, what is PCAP files, how to use Wireshark, how to analyze and filtering in Wireshark. And if you're interested more, then you might use Linux commands to decode this basis for. So it's a lot of stuff that you can learn only just one questions. So this is just another example for reverse challenge. And whoever joined the FCQ last year, I think you would know this challenge. It's very favorite to have a PowerShell challenge last year. So when we receive this, we need to identify what is it and how we can run it. Is it a Linux or is it a Windows kind of script? So we need to identify some keywords. In this case, there is a from base 64 string. So this might be, this is a base 64. And we look at the end, there is double equal. So might be this is a base 64. And then when we look at the end, there is a shell ID, and X. And when we try to copy all of this and put in PowerShell, we could see that it's referring to IES, which IES is referring to invoke expressions. So all of this, when it's give an output, it will be executed. And that's where we could get this result. Pay me 10 Bitcoin for answer, right? So when we run it, we got this. So this one is reverse challenge. So which means it want to test your skills on how you maybe see the content of the source code, or maybe you need to decompile the things from the base 64. So when we do this kind of challenge, if anyone's beginner, you might want to like Google Doc, right? You want to search what are the keywords that you want to search. And this script I found in this GitHub, based on the keywords that you want to search, like uncompressed, decompressed, base64 and PowerShell script. And when we just replace that base64 in these variables and we run it, we could get this line. So when we try to run it, we got these answers because it's trying to compare, like right now the variable x is 20. So if 20 is less than 10, it will give this. But since 20 is larger than 10, it will give these answers. So that's why when we run it, as many times as we run, we always get these answers. So when we try to reverse it, we get this line and we got the flag itself. So that is one example on the CTF challenge for reverse. So some junior and some friends asked me, like, is there any prerequisite for them to join CTF and get started in CTF? I would say that you don't need anything, but it's good if you have these requirements, which the first one is a basic knowledge of networking, like subnetting, TCP/IP routing, and similar. But do not worry. Even I myself did not know anything much about networking when I just started. At least I know what is IP lah. So it's I think that one is good already. And then the second one is knowledge of Linux commands. It's really useful, especially when you want to install some tools from GitHub, right? You need to use Linux command. and you need to have your own VM specifically for CTF. You might use others Linux distro or you use Kali Linux, but at the end it really help you. But like I said before, if you don't know it yet, it should be fine, because I'm also started to learn Linux command at 2020. Yep. So the third one is basic programming skills. In this case, um, any language is fine, but I would prefer that you learn Python. For anyone who doesn't know any programming language yet, you can use Python because it's more user friendly for me, in my opinion. And if you can read and understand code, that would be really good, as that would be really important to analyze the source code from different kind of challenges. And the last one is persistent, patient, and don't give up. And this one is really important because some people might really excited on the first day, and then the second day they just gone, right? So passion is really important, and you need to practice days and night. I mean, it's depend on your time management, how you manage it. But if you got friends or community or partner to learn, then that will be really awesome, and that will be really good for your on how you're going to improve yourself. And I think it's okay not be able to solve challenges on the first day. Even for the Hack the Box machine, it took me 2 months to solve one challenge or one bosses. So don't give up, and it's just your first day on CTF. And if you focus and keep your patient and persistent, you might be really awesome for the next coming years. So how can we get started in CTF? So I really recommend it for anyone's beginner to join any workshop, conference, and training, especially in these sharing sessions. You join it. So this might be your first step in CTF. At least you know what is CTF, where you can practice and anything that is related to CTF. So it will be really beneficial for you yourself. The second one, you could try to join local and international CTF. Like I said before, CTF time, that is really cool for you to search for any upcoming CTF. And even local, there are a lot of CTF. We have F-Secure and also CTF from APU, and then the upcoming one, War Games and I can't remember Tukar CTF. Yeah. So that one is really nice. So please join it. And for international, you could join like Pontidon or anything else like Headerbox Try Me. They might have their own CTF. So please take this opportunity to join it too. The third one is you need to write, right? Whatever you learn that one day, you need to write. I think that will be one thing that I keep using when I started. Whatever knowledge that I gain, I write it and make it as a cheat sheet for me to refer it back. And you might change different application for your note taking, but it's fine. Just keep it. You might refer it one day. And community is really important, especially you got a friend that you can ask or you could share, and it's really nice. You can start with your university first, and from that you could try to expand it to make it local community where everyone can join and sharing their knowledge, right? And last thing, share your knowledge. This one is just extra things, because what I know is that when you share something, you gain more, right? Even though that you might not gain at that time, but you might gain it as a long-term kind of scenario. Yeah. So this is just one example of cheat sheet that I use. Right now I'm using Obsidian. It's really nice. And there's online, but I think you need to subscribe it. But they use Markdown, so it's really easy for you to copy and paste your images, your link, and you could try to maybe integrate it with your GitHub so that you push it. And since GitHub could use Markdown, that would be really nice. But the first time that I use is Cherry Tree. It's really easy to use, but I don't know why I changed it. And because I think I use Linux and Windows at the same time, so it's really difficult for me to change it. So that's why I stick with Obsidians. But if you are someone who loves to take notes and maybe write and watch it in your mobile application, then you might prefer Notions as it is online and you could sync it between web and your mobile applications and you could refer it anywhere you go. So the next one is social media. This one is really important, like for anyone who just getting started, you might want to follow these pages or Twitter page, right? Like for example, Nanosec. When you follow them, they might share you where's the upcoming conference or training, like in this case, in the sharing session, so you could get the update, the latest one. Like for example, we have Free Hack also. They could share you a lot of things, but I think the best thing is you could see what they retweet, what they like, who follows them, and who they follow, and because of that, you could gain a lot of information and knowledge at the same time, right? So you could try to follow all of this. And War Games also, they share when is their upcoming CTF coming, and you could try to follow many other people's, and you can try to follow me if you want, but I don't share a lot of stuff. I just retweet other people tweet. Yeah, that would be something that I used to do when I like find something very interesting. So I retweet it, and you could do that, and it might give you some like when you read newspaper, something like that, right? But it's related to cybersecurity only. So where you can practice and learn, right? So I said before, CTF Time is really good platform where you could see the upcoming CTF, you could see what is the now running CTF, and that is really nice because you don't want to look daily, right, on all of this. So you could see the date and you can manage your time, and because since everyone is students, so you need to manage your time because the allocation of CTF is different region, so they might have different time. You might have a CTF at 3 a.m. But yeah, as long as you enjoy it, it will be fine. And since they have a team rating and scoreboard, you could see local ranking and also global ranking. So that would be really nice. And then we have Pico CTF. This one, I really recommend it for anyone's beginner to start with Pico CTF because they teach you on beginner until advanced. And there are a lot of category in here. So what I shown you just now, all of that category, you could find it in here too. And they have several years with Pico CTF. So you might want to try it and try to solve all of that challenges. Just now we saw two, but all of that is focusing on CTF Geoparty. But this one is more into attack and defense, where you could learn a lot of new vulnerabilities. And I really prefer this one if you want to further your career in pen test or anything related to it. And this one have also different difficulty. It have easy, medium. So you could try to play around with easy first. And like I said before, my first time doing hack the box, it took me 2 months to solve just one box. But it's really fun. You do a lot of research. And at the end, it helps you on creating your own methodology, how long it takes for you. And this one is another example of user-friendly platform where you could learn a lot of things. They have Geoparty, they have attack and defense. And the best thing, you could see the tagging itself. For example, you want to learn web. So you just search for web and you can see all of the challenges or rooms that are related to that tagging that you want. And you could spend in here with your friends, play around in here, and maybe you could share with your friends how you solve it, and that would be really nice. And this one is another example of boot to root, where it's almost the same like head and box, but this one I would say is a medium kind of platform where when you try to play around with try hack me first, then you can jump in here. It's really fun. and you could try to learn a lot of things, and there is not much write up in this machine or in this platform, so you might want to try harder in this platform. And they also have their own competitions annually, if I'm not mistaken, so you might want to look at their pages and see when is the upcoming competitions, right? So in terms of methodology, this is something that I implemented in my life, where I analyze different walkthrough from different sources. And CTF time, they have write-ups in here, so you could see who is right the write-up, which challenges that they write, and which event that the challenge took for. And you could also search for tagging. This one is really, really nice. For example, today I want to learn about Ghidra. So I search Ghidra in here. So you can see which challenges that these people solve it using Ghidra, for example. And another thing is that I love to learn on how others are doing that challenge. For example, this is one example of write-up where he tell you on how you could solve it, and it's very details where you just go into server chat, go into here, put that, and get the output in here, and at the end you get the flag. So this one is something that not really straightforward, because it gives you details, but some might love this kind of write-up where just tell you, okay, go here, do this and that, and you get the flag. For me, I love to compare between these two, and I take these two on my cheat sheet, and maybe some challenges have different method to solve it very fast, and some might solve that challenge very complex. So learning from others is really important, and I think that is the best step for anyone's beginner, because if you learn courses in cybersecurity, that would be fine as you have a basic knowledge. But someone who is very beginner, who doesn't have any background in cybersecurity, you might want to try this kind of method where you read different others walkthrough from different sources, and you take these their methods to on your cheat sheet, and maybe you could refer it back in the future itself. The second one is learning programming. You might want to automate a lot of stuff in CTF, right? So you don't need to become a programmer. You just need to learn a few things in programming just to help you on solving CTF challenge very fast, right? So it could help you on your time management on solving any kind of challenges. So there are a lot of programming language that you could learn. There is Python, there is Java, JavaScript, or might be C++ or C. But like I said before, whoever is beginner, I would really recommend it for you to learn Python first, learn how it works, learn the syntax, and learn the basic fundamentals of programming, so that when you encounter any kind of challenges in the future that might need programming, then at least you know how to read and how to search for that certain program. Okay, so it's okay if you start with hello world, but you need to know that when you learn programming, it's like you learn a new language. So you need to look at it every single day, or not every single day, regularly, I would say, and so that you will be become more comfortable with it. So maybe at that one time you don't need to search in Google anymore, and you could just write it. But there might be some function that you want to search, not everything that you could have in your mind. So at the end, when you learn programming in cybersecurity, you might come up with tools, your own tools, and you might publish it in your GitHub and everyone use it. Or it might be you have your own private tools that you use in your daily life or in your CTF challenges that you don't want to share with anyone. But at least it could help you improving in your programming. And lastly, if you would like to get your own CVE, or you write your own exploit, you want to share it in another platform. So there is one platform called ExploitDB, and if you want to improve your programming, I really recommended that you try to create your own POC or exploit script, and that would be really awesome, not only for your own, but for your resume, for example, and for your own portfolio. So the last thing is don't wait. This is something that I got a lot from my junior, where they said they did not prepare yet, they're not ready yet to learn. But like I searched in here, if you wait until you are ready, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. So I would say don't wait. Whatever it is, do it now. You set your goals, you set your mindset, and when you focus, you will get it. Yeah. So you could try to make your own incentive to like search for keyword. Like for example, I search CTF register and look for latest one. Okay, there is a new CTF coming soon. And you see, it's all about us, how we want to train ourselves, right? So do not depend on other people to just give you everything, but you make to have your own incentive so that you could improve a lot, right? So the next one is how CTF could benefit students. So I'll try to explain and sharing about it. First one is get experience before internship or work. Yeah, this one is really important because as someone who is not in a cybersecurity background, they don't know how capable you are in doing that work, right? So by joining CTF competition that's related to cybersecurity, that's where they see your passion. That's where they could see, oh, you are very interested in this kind of area, so you do this and that, and so that you can get experience. So even though that might took you like 2 years or more just to learn by yourself, but it's really nice and good experience, and you could put it in your resume, your portfolio, right? The second one is you could make a lot of friends and network. Like for example, I make friends from APU, I make friends from different university, SKR, Trailblazer, right? Even UIA, right? So even though that we compete with everyone, but at the end, it's in healthy competitions. So do not have any bad intention to everyone. So we just want to have fun while learning. At the same time, we want to make friends because who knows, maybe in future, they might be your future colleagues in your workplace, right? So be good to everyone, be kind, don't make any kind of, bad attitude for everyone. Yeah. So that's the second benefit I would say for students networking. Yeah. The third one is you could improve your technical skills and soft skills. In terms of technical skills, when you play CTF, you will use a lot of tools, a lot of programming. So that's where you will improve your technical skills. But in terms of soft skills, for example, in this sharing session, so you might do sharing session for your own by maybe you could start with your university first, your friends, you share how you walk through this kind of challenge, how you solve it, and what is your methods. So people would love to hear that. And even myself, I love to hear everyone methods on how they solve it. And yeah, that's about it. And the fourth one is win prizes. So most of the CTF, they got prizes, right? And I think that's one of motivation for some students, even myself. But at the end, don't make that prizes as your, I would say, your top one. The top one should be knowledge, of course, but it should be another motivation for you to improve yourself. Then it should be fine, right? Because who doesn't want prizes, right? And most of the CTF, they are free, so why not you try to join everything, get that knowledge, and maybe someday you could make your own CTF to help others. So at the end, from community, you want to help the community itself. So it's not like you go win and that, and then at the end you just silence. You don't help people. So what I think is that from community to community is very important, so that very younger students or anyone who's getting started in STF, they know what to learn, they know what to do in future, and they could manage a lot of times, right? And lastly is you could build your own good portfolio. So like for example, LinkedIn, GitHub, there are a lot of platforms that you could build your own portfolio just to help you to get a first step in your internship or in your career. So this is just one example of CTF prices that you could see. This one is Google CTF. So you might see there's USD in here, in there. So some might give you laptop or any computer equipment, and some might give you cash prizes or subscription. But all of this is something that you might motivated. But like I said before, don't make this as something not like what to say. Yeah, knowledge first, the price is second, right? So this is the platform where you could build your own portfolio. LinkedIn is really nice. So whoever is in the last final year, that would be really nice if you could start doing LinkedIn and you try to update your LinkedIn. It's just some kind of resume, but it's something that you could try to follow different other people, or it might be your future employer, so they could see what you're up to, what you're doing. So that's really, really important. The second one is GitHub. So this one is for you to like upload your project, your CTF tools, your exploit, anything that is related to what you are doing. So you can try to update in here. That's really, really nice. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box have their own certification. Like Hack the Box, they have ProLab and variety of ProLab. And even though it's very cost, like 100 ringgit, if I'm not mistaken, for one ProLab, but it's really nice. It helps you on improving your skills. And also Try Hack Me, their own subscription is not that expensive. And you might want to try it. I think that would be really, really good. Their modules, their courses. And for HackerOne and Background is something that you want to look for in the future. After you're comfortable with CTF, Hackable, and Try Me, you might want to try to look in HackerOne and Background. They are a bug bounty platform. And this one is really nice to have in your resume or in your portfolio, but it's something that you need to learn. It's not something that you could get easily. Even myself, I have a lot of difficulty on this platform, right? So at the end, you can have your own portfolio. You can build your own portfolio using this platform and try to utilize all of it, as at the end, it yours, your portfolio, and that's where you can get the first step in your career or internship at least. So for the upcoming CTF, since I could share this, there is upcoming CTF on November and December. So please and support them, join. You don't need to pay anything, but if you win it, you get prizes. See, it's very, very nice. So please support them and join. And the last one is on 20 November. It should be this week. And this one, War Games, is 11 December. So please join it and invite more friends to join, and hopefully that you will enjoy it. I think, yeah, that's all from my sharing session. So I think we should have Q&A sessions.
All right. Thank you for the sharing. It's a very comprehensive one, even though as a host, I need to write down everything because every minute seems like an important point to me also. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So before we proceed to Q&A, first of all, sorry for the technical glitches at 10 o'clock, so we started a little bit late. And please allow me to introduce who are the organizer today. All right. So first of all, I'm not Ahmad Zulkarnain. So Ahmad is another crew for in NanoSec. So I'm LJ, right? I'm the lead of NanoSec EDU. So my focus is on educations in cybersecurity. Right. So anything that related to the community in cybersec in Malaysia, right? I'll be leading with a lot of friends, including our friends. And there's one good friend which is Rehax. So he also tried to reach out as a community to help everyone in bringing up the next generations like Ali and Ani and those friends that mentioned by Ali in the past 1 hour, right? So if we look into the activities of NanoSec, this is the third sharing session, and we were before lockdown and during lockdown, we do have a few activities. I saw quite a lot of new and old friends in the participate list, including the ex GCC members. So for those who want to look up what is GCC, you can go to gcc.ac. So there's a lot of alumni there, and they did very well after the cybersecurity camp, right? So for juniors, you can start looking up, and you can try to contact all the names that Ali mentioned. You can contact Ali to ask about anything about security, provided they are free, because I think everyone will be flooding to our main speakers today. All right. So meanwhile, if you look into NanoSec websites, they hold conference every year. This year, we didn't manage to host a conference, but we managed to get a few sponsors to conduct workshops, mostly are technical workshops. So, and thanks to those sponsors, we're able to conduct it for free, right? So for anyone that willing to or want to learn more by like what Kojin has mentioned, sharing by learning, right? So feel free to contact any or reach out to the local community to say that, hey, I want to be a NanoSec volunteer. Is there any upcoming events or CTF or sharing sessions, right? We can help to do that, right? So yeah, so let's move to the Q&A sessions. So there's one questions from Facebook, which is, can we share any link for beginners on CTF? I think Ali has shared it verbally. So since we have so many friends here, perhaps let's grow as a community to paste all the links that we have gathered and see what we can get from there. Right. So Ali, I save you from the question, the first question. So okay. let everyone compile it together. All right. So in YouTube, right? What should I learn first to get into CTF competition? Right. I'm totally a beginner in computer science and cybersecurity, and I'm in zero programming knowledge.
Yeah, for that question, I would say is that you try to like for example in Try Hack Me, right? They have their own beginner modules where it gives you the question itself, it gives you the description of that challenge, how you want to solve it, why you want to solve it. So modules is really important for beginners, right? So you don't want to just jump to questions and you don't know what to search. And since you have zero programming language skills, then it will be really beneficial for you to start with a modules and Try Hack Me or any kind of CTF platform that have that modules. You could try to join it, or you can start with watching videos in YouTube. There are a lot of easy beginners walkthrough to guide you on your CTF journey. I think that would be something that I will try to share for anyone beginning.
So based on what you have shared just now was, I think you share a lot of resources in terms of places to learn, a lot of tools, some examples of walk through how do we solve some challenge. I think our friends should have some ideas how to start from zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I like your good piece of advice, right? In one of your wording, right, is say it's okay to fail for the first time, right? We
Yeah.
should acknowledge our limitation and don't expect success for the first try, right?
Yeah.
I like this word, right? And another the phrase that I learned today is it's okay. At least I know a little bit of something today, right? So
Yeah.
it's very motivating. All right. On the other questions on YouTube, right? It say in any CTF competition, are we allowed to use any online system like encrypts cryptography? Is there any common tools usually used by used in CTF competitions? The common tools. Are we allowed to use any online tools?
Yeah. To answer this question, CTF itself is online. So you need to have internet to access the challenge and platform. So it's very intended for you to search any kind of online tools or offline tools that could benefit you in solving that challenge. So it'll be really fine for you to use online systems.
And there's another question coming in, which is from Lai, right? He directly called you boss. So seems like you're going to hire him. Any tips for reverse engineering challenges?
Yeah, even myself, I'm not very good at reversing challenge. I'm still learning, but what I learned is that you could try to spend like 1 month only focusing on that reverse challenge so that you could try to focus more, because if you try to combine different other category in 1 month, it's not really good, I think. And I've tried in 1 month to test myself on reverse engineering. That would be really nice, but after 2 months you stop, then you try to like cannot remember how you solve it. So yeah, you need to consistent lah.
Yeah, persistent determination, practice make perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So the next question is it's a very short question. Tools needed for specific OS or apps for beginner. I think he's asking for tools or for tools recommendation or OS recommendation.
For OS, I really recommended Linux. Might be you can try Kali Linux because they have a lot of tools that you might need. And for mobile, you could try Mobexler. I will share the links later on Mobexler. That is for mobile kind of challenges, and they have a lot of tools in there. And yeah, it's all depends on different category. You might need to use different applications, but I will try to share a link so that you could refer later on.
So it seems like there's no one to fit every challenges. Everything is a la carte.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question is how should beginners manage expectation? Because I think when you introduce CTF, some of them is find it okay to start, and halfway the challenges suddenly goes very difficult. How do you manage this kind of situation when you learn through CTF?
Yeah. Like I said, I started my journey solo, so I struggle a lot. But when I meet friends and community, that's when I try to become more consistent. Because, like for example, if our friends burn out, but we are not burn out, so we help him, and it's just like exchange. If someone burn out something, so that's why I said if you have community, they will support you and that will help you to keep consistent.
Yeah. peer support is very important. Right? And I think the last question will be how does CTF really apply to the real world, where a lot of students will learn mathematics, for example, right? And the most common feedback we get is, "Oh, mathematics, I already give back to my teachers." Right. So when I learned CTF in degree, and once I step into the work, how does it help? Will it really helps? I mean, the questions.
Yeah, I think it's all depends on your career itself. Like for myself, it helps me a lot, especially on web, since I'm doing penetration testing. So I need to learn on how I need to find vulnerability, what kind of tools that I need to use. So it's all depends on which career that you want to go for. But at the end, you learn basic knowledge on every category. So that will be really, really good for your own career because you know at least a basic stuff on that category.
So thank you a lot for every single minute that you share, right? So for participants here, we do record our session. So after we have managed it or organized it, together with the link that we have compiled, we'll share to all of this, right? So thank you, Ali. Right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So moving on. Oh yeah, you have the last script. All right, just keep it on, don't worry. Right.
Okay.
Moving on, we'll keep it. We will move on to the next speaker. Right. Anik. Right. Or we call him Chum. Right. So he's also a generic IT background and moved into cybersecurity and win award in several competitions. I think the nearest one is Hack the Box Global, right? So I'll let him to introduce himself more in this session, right? So these sessions will be slightly technical sharing sessions where he's going to introduce his tools and how does he use his tools in his CTF journeys or competition journeys or his pen test journey. All right. So he's going to tell us that there are multiple ways to create our own payload, right? Especially in specific control environment. Right. So he will introduce Sharperner, right, and automated obfuscation or encrypted Shellcode tool to weaponize a .NET dropper, right, in memory development. All right. So once Anik is ready, we shall just let him start it off. Right, Anik?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, first I'll share my camera first. See if it's. Oh, I look super bad.
It's fine. It's just a sharing session.
Okay. Let me share my screen first.
All right, it's clear.
You should see. Okay, nice.
All right, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, hi everyone. Assalamualaikum to Muslim students. And very good morning. First, I'm Anik Fakrul, and thank you, LJ, for introducing me, and thank you, Ali, for the previous session. It was really helpful and him briefing his journey on how he started in cybersecurity. So actually, me and Ali, we started like I think one day gap. We started like since early pandemic. So we talk a lot on Discord, and he really inspires me to start to continue like struggling every day doing this infosec stuff. Okay, so today I'm gonna talk about creating our own payloads. I mean, how do we execute code on a victim machine, or in this case, if you are playing Hack the Box or Try Hack Me, you can try executing shellcode instead of just using MSF Venom. MSF Venom is really good tools, but instead I will show how actually the exe executable behaves and what caused it to execute our shellcode. So I'm going to use C# for today because it has a really understandable, at least the syntax is understandable instead of using a native code, C++ or C. So this talk is going to be a bit technical, but if you have questions, just shoot it in the chat. Okay, let's go into my introduction. I am a IIUM student. I'm a UIA student, University Islam Antarabangsa, and I'm majoring in Bachelor of Information Technology, BIT. And I also play CTF and boot to root. And most of the time, I just, like Ali have presented before, what CTF competition he joined. Of course, I will join also. We are in the same Discord server, so we always keep others updated. And I'm still a student, so I'm doing my final semester doing internship, and I'm doing internship in also the same as Ali as a penetration tester, and also hopefully red team to be. I think that's it about myself. Let's move on to the agenda. So I'm gonna talk about why do we even bother to create our own payload or dropper? Why not just use MSF Venom? Why not just use built-in C2 payload generator, for example, like Covenant or Porsche C2? Why not just use what we call that? MSF console, the interpreter one. And second, I will show demo on how do we actually run the shellcode. And for the second demo, I'm going to show how do we perform process injection and what is actually process injection. And also in the code, I will show how do we actually simply obfuscate the shellcode. So please keep in mind, it's obfuscate, it's not encrypt. I will go into that deeply after this. And like LJ said, I will also show my own tools. It's still in beta mode. I'm not claiming it will evade anything or AV or ADR. I will just show what it does, and hopefully I will present it later. And okay, and then for my final agenda, I will give some bonus. Actually, how do we execute and at least I will save the title for later. So sit back if you want to know the bonus part. Okay, so why we have to create our own payload when, like I said before, so no one knows your environment. I mean, if you are a penetration tester, or for example, if you are doing an internal pen test, you have to like firstly, if you have a session in the internal network, you have to know what AV are they running and what EDR and what is being detected and what is not. So that is why we are creating our own payload. For example, if you use simply MSF Venom payload, it is fine if you are doing in Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. But I would suggest if you are dealing with whoever working or soon to be working, if you are like doing your engagement, your client, so never use I would recommend not to use just simply MS7 or anything, just create your own one. So at least you will know that your code, this will somehow bypass something on the client, so they wouldn't detect. So if you use MSF Venom, it is, I think, most of the AV vendors detect MSF Venom shellcode. Yep. And then, of course, you yourself know your payload. You yourself know your own payload, because if you just use others exe, then you wouldn't know like what it does in the background. So if you code it yourself, you will know there is nothing malicious in there, or very noisy, so something like that. And the last one, if you are lucky, your payload might evade AV detection. I mean, what I mean by AV detection is if your code is, you know how to trick or modify your code that can somehow bypass the signature detection or AV signature detection. And if you are super lucky, you might also bypass the EDR. Okay. So we're going to move into the demo part. So please let me open the chat. If you have questions, just shoot in the chat. I'll open the chat. One moment. Okay. Let's move to the running the shellcode. So first, we are going to, of course, for the sake of POC, we're going to pop up calculator. So first, we're gonna upload the script from here. All right. Okay, I guess you guys can see my screen now. Okay, I will delete this first. Okay, so in this demo part, I'm not going to go very briefly on the code. This is just importing the modules from the DLL. This is the part where we actually focus on. So first, this is how the shellcode looks like in bytes array representation. It can be in base64. At the end, it will just be some kind of bytes, or shellcode is actually a assembly language. So it is represented in, it can be represented in many forms, base64 or in bytes array. So in this case, oh, let me spawn my Kali first. Okay, so in this part, I'm going to go very briefly. If you have questions, please ask. First, we are going to like get the size of the shellcode. So it is actually 276, and we are going to like perform a virtual alloc API. This is this will allocate a space. Imagine there is a space for a process, and you are allocating exactly exactly this size in the memory for us to inject the shellcode in the memory. And then we are giving it execute write permission, RWX, just RWX. So this is actually a red flag for if the EDR is, most of EDR will just detect RWX memory. So in this case, I'm not going to like teach how to bypass this and bypass that, just for the sake of POC. So you can go deeply and modify your code. So in this case, I'm going to use RWX permission so that we can write, read, or execute the memory. And then we're going to use partial copy to copy the shellcode. Here, you see the highlighted part. Copy the shellcode into the address pointer of the virtual alloc. So we save the virtual alloc memory region in as an address pointer, and then we will copy the shellcode in the address and with the size of the shellcode. And then once we copy, the create thread will execute the shellcode. And then I'm not going to go very detailed in the arguments. So just note that create thread will execute the shellcode, and you can go to Microsoft documentation to actually poke yourself how this argument works. And then we will save we will store this as we will get the thread handle, and we will call for wait for single object. This is like if it fails, it will prompt us. I mean, we can get last error for this one. This is just like try except for in Python or anything. Okay, so let's try to execute the shellcode in this. Oh, first let's use MSF Venom to generate the shellcode. I'm pretty sure everyone tried using MSF Venom. It's familiar with MSF Venom. So is it too small? So like I said, MSF Venom can be Zach Sandy. We're just going to go for cult.exe. This can be any command. And -F for format, we can use base64. Oh, sorry. You can use base64 and wait a while for it to generate. And this is a base64 implementation. And in this case, we're going to use, there is already a format for MSF Venom to make it easier. We generate for C# format. It can be C, it can be Python, it can be anything. So we will copy this and paste in here. We will change the variable in shellcode, or you can easily like use MSF Venom tools to get -v for a variable, and shellcode, it will just generate the same thing but with a different variable. Shellcode, this one. So just copy this and paste this in here, and it should execute our calculator. Okay, this is our code. Oh, by the way, if you don't have Visual Studio, you can use Notepad. Notepad demo1.cs. Oh, sorry, I cannot type. Okay, you can even use this one, Notepad, and C# can be compiled with. Most of Windows 10 have this. csc.exe in this in the following path. You have to make it bigger. Let's make it 20. Okay, csc and demo1.cs. Let's just show that this will get detected. I will turn on the AV first. And I have to spawn another PowerShell. Just check real quick. If AV is on, yep, AV is on. It detects the message string. So let's go to desktop. And then we'll execute again. From before cc demo1, we will execute, and yeah, thread found. 723. Yep. So if you view the details, it detects the demo1.exe. So I'm not claiming this will bypass or anything, just for the purpose of popping the calculator. So let's turn off the AV first and execute it again. Let's wait for AV to delete the, yep, it's already deleted. And let's execute and compile again. It detects again. I believe I've turned off the AV. Oh, not yet. Let's wait some more. This is a problem when you do a technical demo. Yeah, it works fine before, but let's do it again. Demo 1, and let's execute demo.exe. Oops, sorry. Yep, it should spawn a calculator. So you can actually do, for example, you want to change calc.exe to any command. For example, your reverse shell have a different payload for MSF Venom, and it can be anything. Just change the format to whatever you want. In this case, we want to use C#. So see, they already allocate memory in the current process, and we copy shellcode into the allocated memory space using the Marshall copy, and then we are creating thread using the create thread, and it execute our shellcode. Let's go back to our. So far, do you guys have any questions? Please shoot it in the chat. By the way, you can get the code from here. Can I share in the chat? Yeah, I'll share in the chat. Okay, let's move on to demo 2. I'm doing a process injection and shellcode obfuscation. Process injection. What is process injection? Process injection is basically you spawn a legitimate process. For example, you spawn a explorer.exe or notepad.exe in the, like it shows in the picture. We spawn a notepad.exe, and in the memory region, we allocate a space again in notepad process, and we inject our shellcode in the notepad process, and we execute the we notepad process. Once we are creating the notepad process, it is in a suspended state. So during it is being suspended, we will modify everything in the memory region. We will inject our shellcode, and then how do we execute this? By resuming the thread. Resuming the thread. So once it is resumed, our shellcode should be executed. Another calculator will pop up. Okay. Okay, and then let's use a XOR shellcode. XOR everything. In CTF, we also have XOR, whatever you call it, I just call it XOR. So you can use CyberChef, a famous website or famous web app for CTF, or any XOR crypto to XOR your shellcode with a key. Okay. And then the second step should be we convert the obfuscated bytes again to base 64 encoded string, because we cannot copy bytes representation, right? So we have to convert it back to base 64 and copy in our code, and we compile again with CSC. Let's go into the demo again. Demo 2. Again, you can use Notepad to open this. I will share the code later. It uses slightly the same process as before. It will allocate a memory in the process handle. Okay, let's go from the top. Okay, just focus on this bit. Okay, first, this is the process where we start the process. Let's go to the function. So it will use a API called create process. And in this case, I want to create binary parts of the notepad.exe. So I create a process called notepad.exe here. And then I save the handle as, in this line, notepad is not started yet. Notepad process is not started yet. We just want the process info first, process information. And then this open process will open notepad, notepad process using the process info. We want the PID for the process. Okay, and then process spawn, and then we will allocate the memory. One moment, let me see. Okay, never mind. Okay, and then we allocate the memory with the size of our shellcode. And then we give the same argument as before. We give RWX memory, RWX permission for the memory. And then we write process memory. API is used to write the shellcode in the memory space. So we use the address pointer. Okay, first we want to write in the process handle the notepad in the memory address that we allocated before. And then we want to write the shellcode. And also we give the argument, the shellcode size. And this is just a random, this is not necessary, but we will have to give the argument, the parameter, sorry. And then we will, after the write process memory have done, and if it is successful, we will create the thread, suspended thread, and using the process ID just now. And we save as a thread handle, and we use a queue user APC. This is in a suspended form. And then we use the resume thread API to resume the process, and it should execute our shellcode. So I said before, I use XOR, right? So where is actually the XOR part? Okay, so we paste our shellcode in here. This is a obfuscated shellcode, and we use a XOR key of lala12345. And then we XOR, we convert this shellcode from basic C4, so it should be in bytes form, and then we XOR it back into the original form. And then we will use the shellcode in the process like I explained before. So let's use a famous tool called CyberChef. I'm going to use a tool. CyberChef. Can't take. One moment. You know what? Let's use a. So I created a tool actually for this. It is called Zorcryptor. So it takes a file. Let's how do I do this? Never mind. Let's use CyberChef back. Okay, we open CyberChef, and then we create a base64 so that we can copy into, sorry. so that we can copy into CyberChef. And then we copy the base64 part and we paste in CyberChef, and we want the original form, the bytes form. So we convert it from base64, and this is what it looks like in the original form. So that's why we have to convert it to base64. We cannot simply copy this one. And then we want to XOR this with a key called, let's say, ranosec is this, and yep, we convert it back to base64, and we copy this one and paste it in the code. So we change the key to nanosec. This may or might not work, but hopefully it works. So it will decode the shellcode with the XOR key and perform the process injection part. Let's compile it again. Let's use demo2. So demo2.exe should be in here. Let's open process hacker to see if notepad process is spawned. It will spawn it is not a persistent process. I mean, the notepad will be gone in a few seconds. So let's execute demo2.exe and see. Notepad process is spawned at the back, and the calculator is now executed. Let's do it one more time. We execute demo2.exe, notepad process will respond, and our calculator will pop up. So that is a process injection. It is different from the demo one. Demo one is actually we inject the shellcode in our self process, in our own process, in the current process. Okay, let's go back to the slide. I have 24 minutes more. Let's okay. So we going to go to Sharperner. What it does actually, so I created Sharperner actually for fun. I play Hack the Box Pro Labs because Hack the Box Pro Labs has AV antivirus enabled, so it might be quite a pain to get a reverse shell connection. So we cannot just simply use MSF Venom. It will get nuked and deleted by AV. So I created Sharpener for the sake of playing Hack the Box Pro Labs. Not recommended to use in the real engagement or anything. Okay, so what's the goal actually? What I wanted it to bypass signature detection, and of course, Hack the Box Pro Labs enabled the Microsoft Defender. So I want it to bypass Defender, of course, and also, if I'm lucky, it should also bypass most AV vendors. And second is to bypass EDR hooking I also implement direct syscall. You can read more on direct syscalls, and also manual mapping using deinvoke. I will show how the manual mapping works after this slide. All right, I want to stay updated and changing code logic to avoid signature detection. Why am I saying this? Because once I publish the tool, like 1 week after that, of course, the AV vendors will update signature detection for this one. For example, in my code, I use this XOR encrypt decrypt function, and it detects the function itself. So I have to like update the code logic back. I mean, it does the same thing, but we change the code logic. I mean, for example, we use for each instead of just for, and this is the code logic that I used previously. This should not be detected. This one, this for loop. So that is why I said you have to create your own tool. I mean, you have to code it yourself, and as long as it does the work and meet the purpose, so that should do the work. Okay, and then let's go back to the slide. And of course, I want to be OPSEC friendly. So OPSEC, I want it to to not create a very noisy process, or for example, like I said, I will not create a RWX memory. I will use for those who understand, I will just use a RW first. For us, RW will give a read and write permission. So, and then I will write into the memory region. And then after I successfully write, I will change it back. I will switch it back to RX only, so not RWX. I will remove the write permission. So if you're lucky, then it might bypass. It's because most EDR will just detect the RWX memory permission. So this is what it does. It will encrypt base64 shellcode or hex or raw. It accept anything with AES encryption, and then after it encrypt with AES, it will XOR. It is not necessary, but I do it anyway. I XOR again the shellcode, and then I encode it to base64, and then I further obfuscate it with a Morse code, actually a custom Morse code, because some AV might detect if the base64 is too long, and it is it is suspicious. So that's why I use Morse code instead. It might be detected in the future, but yeah, who knows. And then I use a manual mapping. What is a manual mapping? This is a bit into deeply into technical a bit. So this is how EDR hooks a malicious API call. I mean, not a malicious. I mean, it hooks the API calls and it detects the behavior, what it does. For example, Mimikatz will use a kernel 32 module to the kernel 32 module, anti-read virtual memory, and EDR will hook at the very lowest as possible, which is the anti-DLL module. And whenever we use the read virtual memory or read process memory, EDR will hook that, and no matter how you encode or how you encrypt your shellcode, at the end, for example, we use the write process memory, right? Write process memory API should get the original form of the shellcode, right? And then EDR will hook that and know, this is a interpreted shellcode. Delete it or terminate the process. So this is why we use and then what is a de-invoke actually? What is a manual mapping? So for example, this anti-read virtual memory, we copy the module and we create a fresh copy of the module, and then we use our copy instead of just interacting directly to anti-DLL. We use the copy of it, and it should maybe if the EDR is not mature enough, it should bypass the userland hooking part. So EDR is actually a hookers. It hooks everything. So this is in the code representation. So yeah, kecil saja is the obfuscated part of a Sharpsploit module, get library address. So we get the address for create process A, and then we get the function pointer to the create process A into our own. This is the fresh copy. So it can be any name. It can be Lala 1 2 3 4 5 or just, so I just create a process with a small c in the front, and I can use the fresh copy to use the API. Like if we do the same thing, like before, create process, virtual alloc, and write process memory. Instead, we will use our own copy instead of just interacting directly to kernel 52 or anti-DLL. Okay, I mean, I will show first before going into the bonus how the actually the sharpener works. Can you make it bigger? Stop. Have a lot. Sharpener. So it accepts file and also type. Type can be C#, C++, or a DLL payload. I will demo like three of them. For example, you are going to use a file called cult.basic. In cult.basic64 is actually the previously we copied like the cult.exe basic64 representation. Cult.basic64, and we want to generate a C# code. So this C# code implements, let me use a safe. So it will output into the output.cs. Let's view the output.cs. Let's open it with colors. So if you see, it obfuscates every single function every time you execute it, function name, and every single what we call this, variables. It can somehow create a mess. Actually, for the ETW, you can read more on ETW, event trace. What is W? Okay, let's move on. This is the shell, the Morse code part. So I just loop through the shell, basic64 shellcode and convert it to a Morse code. And then this is the dynamic, the de-invoke part, the manual mapping part. It will spawn an NS lookup process. This is actually all the keys, the XOR keys, the AES key, the shellcode, and etc. So it is in Morse code. And then, so it spawned a release.x64. So we have to also use a legit name, because if you just use like a payload.exe, some EDR or AV will just detect by the name. Let's execute release x64. It should execute our calculator, and then let's use a native code. So this native code actually uses a syscall. So it will create a XOR encode. It will XOR encode shellcode with this key, which will also further be converted to Morse code, and then we will encrypt with AES and also XOR. Blah, blah, blah. It will execute a gradle.exe. So if you want to see, I will show the code. I still have 19 minutes, so I will save some time for Q&A. So in this, for example, in this loader, so in this loader part, it is already obfuscated. Let's go into one moment. Templates. Let's Sharperner. Okay, in this hollow part, this is the code, the original code. It will use the NT module. NT module is a direct syscall. It will interact directly to the kernel space, because we can see in the previous slide that EDR is hooking the anti-DLL part. So instead, we will directly, using the syscall table, we will interact directly to the kernel space. Okay, so that is a basic description. You can read more on the blog post. And then it will do the same thing, the Morse code part, blah, blah. The difference is just use a direct syscall. We will execute build Gradle. It will take some time, and then it will execute. Okay. So please keep in mind, this is not a .NET binary. And then I created one for DLL. This can be side-loaded with MSI exec. So what is side-loaded actually? So if we, this is not actually a side, it's called lol bin. You can see if I can open a lol bin. Lol bash, sorry. MSI exec. Yep, MSI exec can execute with minor z. Yep, we can execute with the minus z flag with MSI exec to execute our DLL. Okay, you can view more in the lolbash website. It shows how you can download with using a different. It's actually like GTFO bins but for Windows. Okay, so we will execute our MSI exec on exec and build.dll. Hopefully it should spawn a calculator. If it's not, then I have to debug it again. Yep, it execute our shellcode with MSI exec. And what else I can do? Yep, so that is basically a sharpener. I wouldn't go into the details of what the DLL does, what the Gradle does, what the C++ code does, what the C# code does, because it will take time. It might take a day. Let's go back into the slides. Let's go into the bonus part. How do we, somehow evade, we execute everything in memory without even downloading the exe. Downloading the exe, we don't want to touch this. We just want to download it and save it in memory and execute it from memory. Okay, so that is the bonus part. Okay, so we will use PowerShell for this one, but our enemy should be AMSI right now. So the full name is Anti-Malware Scan Interface. It will detect malicious strings if we execute a malicious command. Imagine it like this. AMSI, we have a dictionary, lots of dictionary of malicious command that Microsoft has already implemented in the dictionary. Imagine it like that, okay? And then if we execute one of the commands in the list, it is considered as malicious and it will block from being executed. So that is AMSI. And then I'm going to explain this because so that you can understand what we will do after this. So what is a CLR? So I will read it for you. CLR uses a private function called AMSI scan to detect unwanted software passes via a load method. And if it is detected, the process will get terminated. So this is this is why most of the people use a C++ code instead of a C#, because you can see in the picture on the right, C# will eventually be converted into a native code. So C++ and C is a native code, and it will be converted or compiled by C code, and then before that it will go in through the CLR. So in the CLR there is a AMSI scan function to detect a malicious string. So PowerShell will, even if we execute it in memory and using PowerShell, CLR does it work and detect our exe? Yeah, there is a way to evade that. And then we are going to, the title is Weaponizing Native PE Files for C# Memory Deployment. We generated a exe, a PE file, C++ code just now, and Sharpener can convert the PE executable into .NET, into C#. Let's pronounce it as .NET by using a manual mapping. So why do we use this? Why do we want to convert it back to exe? Okay. Sorry, why do we want to convert it back to .NET? While we have a native code, right? This is why I want to bypass ADR rules for command signature. Instead of directly executing the exe, we will use a PowerShell native function to execute our code, our executable instead. And we can use, we can load it reflectively. I mean, I will show after this. And this is all about executing in memory, not even touching the disk, not even downloading into the disk. Okay, no, not thank you yet. Okay, let's move on. If I execute Sharpener, we have a convert module, right? We have a convert. So it should be a PE files, PE should be this one. Let's generate back a file called b64, type C++, and yep, yes. We will generate it. The file should be called release x64 again, and we will convert it to .NET using this one, using a convert module, and will be embedded into .NET using manual mapping. And then this is now a .NET file. Okay, what we can do with this? Okay, if we let's say, imagine this is the vector machine with AV enabled. See, contains malicious content. And then we want to execute this. Okay, let's get the IP first. Oh, I don't have the IP. I have to connect to Wi-Fi. One moment. One moment. Okay, let's get IP first. Sorry, let's change the network. Okay, so we have the IP now. We want to download it. Imagine now we this is a attacker machine. Okay, we set up a web server on port 8000. Let's say if we like directly download through the browser, 8000. So the file is called, what was the file called? Release, de-invoke release, right? This one. If we download it directly, sorry, not this one. We want to download the release x64 only, right? Oh yeah, the Sharpener payload can bypass actually Microsoft Defender. So let's use our demo 2 instead. Okay, let's execute our demo 2 file again. So demo 2 should get new. That's hosted on 8080. I have 1 minute more. This should take. If you download a demo2.exe, no, sorry. Why can we download? Yep, threats found, right? So it detects as a interpreter payload, even if we Zoid. Okay, so what can we do with it? We want to execute it using PowerShell in memory. So we can, I will make it bigger. So we can download it using into a data. We can download it using web client. Download data from our attacker machine called demo2.exe. So in the data, it should be, I could type. So it should be some contents are in the data variable. So we want to execute it reflectively in memory. We can use a system reflection part, a reflection function assembly, and we load data into. See, it cannot because of AMC. This is because AMC can detect the code as malicious. So how can we bypass this AMC? AMC is quite easy to bypass. We can use AMC.fail. This doesn't have internet. We can use AMC.fail. So we cannot just simply use this will not patch the AMC scan buffer. We will use the rastermouse one. This will patch the AMC scan buffer. And we will paste it in here. One moment. What? I cannot paste. Yep, okay. So I've already pasted. And we can try loading it again. So it can load now. See, it can load now. It does not show the rubbish, the error output, and we can execute it using our own namespace. See, the namespace is Shellrunner and the class program, and also we want to execute in the main function, right? So you should be familiar with coding. If we use Shellrunner program, and we want to execute in main, we will give arguments because main function will accept arguments in string array. So we will split it to make it an array. It should execute our shellcode even if AV is turned on. So that is how we execute it and in memory and just using AMC bypass to execute our malicious exe. So that is what is being done by Sharpener also. It can execute, it can convert PE files into .NET and can be loaded reflectively using this method. Okay, let's go back to the slide. I think there is no more. So thank you for for listening. I know I went a bit technical. I am trying to fit the time, so I already went over it for 3 minutes. So let's move on to Q&A session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anik. Don't worry about the technical, right? Our juniors will reach there one day. So let's wrap up a little bit on your session. So you develop tools just because that when you want to execute a specific payload or specific tag, antivirus is blocking you. Am I correct?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So this is just to help to give a closure to our beginners friends, just in case they look into codes and they have no idea what's happening. So perhaps we can go through a few key terms to help our friends. So you mentioned a little bit of syscall, shellcode, handler. I like the hook, right?
Yep.
Hookers, right? And process and thread, MSI, exec, and so on. So I perhaps can go through a little bit of a simple layman terms to tell our friends that what is this about. And I mean, to tell them is how do you get these things pre-pandemic and post-pandemic in this short time? How do you get to know all these things?
Yeah, this is quite. Me myself, I haven't gone deeply into what is actually a direct syscall. Even the invoke, I do not completely understand that. But right before I started my intern, I still have like 1 month of free time, so I know if I'm if I already doing internship, I wouldn't have much time to invest on learning. So I read a lot of blogs posted by the InfoSec community. You can just Google. There is a very, very good article by MDSec, by Rastamouse. Rastamouse is also a well-known InfoSec people. They post. I just read probably 20 to 30 blogs to understand what is actually a direct syscall. And if I'm trying to code a direct syscall, it took me almost like two full weeks. So I code day and night for almost 2 weeks to trying to learn and also code it at the same time. So I read a lot of blogs. So my advice is, if you are starting into InfoSec, I'm not saying that certificate is not good. Taking certificate is good, and Udemy course is also good, but also spend some time on reading other people's blogs, because I'm not a fan of reading. I hate reading, but I have to spend times on reading blogs because they have a really good content in there. So yep.
Yeah. So back to the very first advice. You need to everyone here need to get our hands dirty. Besides using all the automated tools, it's like driving a manual car. You know all the gear works, how does the gear works, rather than just use a automated car, right? Yeah. All right. So questions from the floor is this one. Why the tool is called Sharpener?
Because I was quite a noob back then, because most of the C# tool people are calling it sharp something, right? I'm bad at naming stuff. So I just what can be sharp after sharp. So it was comes in my mind. It was a sharpener. I was intended to create we use sharpener to sharpen our pencil, right?
Yes.
So after like a month of publishing it, I just noticed the sharpener is actually a typo. So there is an extra R. So I just leave it. So
yeah.
That is a random name.
Yeah.
Yep. I just wanted the sharp in the name.
that's why I like the game and all the variables that you give, like Russia, kecil saja, right? It's very very entertaining while you're stressing out. There's another question, a curious question, right? How many endpoint detection EDR has been bypassed with Sharperner since the day you have created it?
Okay, I think I've created it over 1 month now, and it is not in development for almost 1 month now. I mean, not in development. I've been ignoring the Sharpener for 1 month. I haven't tested it in the real EDR environment. I do not have EDR my hands on any EDRs yet, and probably I will test soon. But as long as what I read in the blogs, that as long as the purpose of direct syscall works, I check with a WinDBG to see if this syscall is actually working. This is not hooked. I use a API monitor to see if the process is actually being hooked, and if it fit the purpose and not is being hooked, then I'm fine by that, because I do not have like my hands on in any EDRs yet to see if it's being detected or not. And also the invoke part, so I check with myself, see if the invoke is actually working, and also syscall is actually working. Yep.
So hopefully one day you can.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think for some beginners that's a little bit confused or try to wondering what you are doing, I think in their class, I think they can learn something like data structures or operating system. In your opinion, does those topics helps?
Yeah. It is helpful at some point actually. I learned back in my class before pandemic. It's about the OS, something learning about deeply into OS, into memory, into page memory and everything. So I did not quite focus during the class, and I mean 1 year after that, I'm trying to code Sharpener. I just noticed like, hey, I think I learned about this, but yeah, I did not focus. So I have to like learn it again, learning about the memory. So it is helpful if you want to code this kind of payload. It is helpful. You can understand the memory actually. Yep.
We always has the common word. I should have did something last time.
Yeah.
Never mind. In life is all about learning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good that you're able to absorb it and you just make it happen, right? And of course, I believe everyone can see that how much sacrifice or how many sleepless nights you have done, because pandemic in Malaysia is only like 2 years, so 24 months for you is quite stressful. Yeah. I can see that. And any advice for juniors, because I believe your directions in security is like going to put to root on EDR. So any advice for juniors that I believe all these are not covered in their degree journey? Yeah. So any advice for
I'm not good in giving advice, but I will try based on my experience.
Yeah.
So back then I started doing InfoSec, just doing VanHub. Let's just, if you're a junior, I'm still junior myself. You can focus on Linux first. I mean, doing the VanHub box or try hack me or hack the box. Focus on Linux first, and trying to see, like Ali said before, if you have the patience into InfoSec, and if you are going into the Windows internals part, if you don't have the patience, you're going to get burnt out really fast. So yeah, let's try to, if you are into Windows internals, if you are interested to learn, just start with Linux first, doing the hack the box part, trying to throttle yourself, trying to get the pace, and then you can slowly start reading blogs and code at the same time. I have no learning path. I've never coded a C# tool before. So how I learn how to code a C# tool, I first have in mind what project do I want to create. I don't learn. I recommend not to learn by syllabus. Just have a project in mind and try to code line by line, Stack Overflow all the way. Stack Overflow and trying to Google how to do this, how to do for loop, how to declare variable in C#, blah blah blah. And as long as the tool meets your requirement, and at the end of the day, if your tool is done, then you are not noticing that you actually have coded a C# tool that you haven't learned before. So yeah, eventually you will learn along the way. Yeah. So have a project in mind. So start with Linux first, doing Van Hub, blah, blah, blah. And then after, you will have the urge along the path that you want to create your own tool. So first you will start using a Python. Python is really good. And then you want to start, if you are into the Windows internals, try to code a C# tool. Or if you have a knowledge about C++, feel free to code it. Or C. Yep. That's my advice. At least.
Yeah, a good piece. It's just like what you have mentioned in your session. It's just like EDR, right? It's just a focus. Once you find some interest or some areas that attract you, just hook onto it, right? Yeah. So yeah, a very good piece of advice, because IT is so broad, cybersec is so broad.
Exactly.
So and I believe in degree some of us are just introduced to cybersec out of nowhere, and within 4 years of degree life, we need to learn so many things. So yeah, it's all about exploration and passion and determination, as what you have mentioned, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I think there's no more questions from the floor, right? And I think that's all for our sharing sessions today. All right. So that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining the session. All right. So again, thank you Nanosec and RedHack for helping us to set up this session and make a successful one. So hope to see everyone hopefully face to face in the Nanosec conference or any RedHack meetup or any initiative. All right. So see you all. Bye. And take care,
everyone.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and that is the end of NanoSec.edu. This is Sniffit, your friendly NanoSec streamboard. We will be back soon with some other events, some new stuff. We will see you when we see you. Until then, keep tabs, check out our Facebook posts, join us on Discord, and we'll see you the next time. Until then, good night, goodbye, good evening, good whatever it is, but whatever it is, have fun. See you next time. Bye bye.